Every man's got a job, but sometimes a man don't get that job done when it needs to be. But you know what they say, better late than never. Howdy, my name is Nonat, and welcome, finally, to the Gunslinger Guide for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I mean, it's not that late, right? When did Guns and Gears come out? Like a couple weeks ago? But we're here, it's time, let's discuss the Gunslinger in Guns and Gears for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I don't know why it took me so long to get to this. I love the Gunslinger, and I can't wait to really dive into this, because unfortunately, even though the book has been out for so long, I haven't taken that much time to dive in. I've looked at the Inventor, I've looked at the firearms, but I haven't looked at the Gunslinger, so everything I know about it still pretty much comes from the playtest. So let's dive in, look at this from an outside perspective. I'm going to keep the playtest out of my mind for the most part, because I probably don't remember that much anyway, and let's talk about the Gunslinger. So, the Gunslinger is a dexterity-based key ability score class with 8 hit points per level, a little squishier than something like a fighter or a ranger, and clearly designed as a backliner. However, they do have some great starting proficiencies with expert perception, expert fortitude saves, expert reflex saves, and trained in will. Overall, you can't complain about those starting stats. They begin trained in 1 or more skills based on their subclass, as well as 3 plus their intelligence modifier, and the big thing, they are expert in simple firearms, martial firearms, and simple and martial crossbows. This is something that I'm really happy to see, that Paizo didn't just limit them to the firearm weapon group, and that you can also make a viable crossbow gunslinger, which I think sounds like a lot of fun. They're also trained in all other non-advanced weapons, which means they're pretty viable and flexible in their combat design. And yes, this is the only other class besides fighter who starts expert with a weapon type. Now this is a little more balanced because it is a very specific type of weapon, but it's still cool to see that someone is finally up there with fighter on par for attack accuracy. And this will be important for later because we're going to see that the Gunslinger is pretty reliant on critical hits to do the most damage. They're also trained in light and medium armor, which is kind of cool that they're not restricted to just light. They can really deck themselves out, which means with a high dexterity score like you're gonna have, your Gunslinger is going to have some pretty decent armor. Level 1 for a Gunslinger is going to be pretty boring because they are a martial class, they get their ancestry and background, initial proficiencies, and they pick their subclass, which is called the Gunslinger's Way. There are 4 ways to choose from for a new Gunslinger, the 4th of which was not in the playtest, so I'm very excited. We have the ways of the Drifter, Pistolero, Sniper, and Vanguard. Gunslingers also start with singular expertise. This is both a blessing and a curse. Gunslingers automatically gain a permanent +1 to all damage rolls for crossbows and firearms. This will help a lot with early game damage, which the Gunslinger in the playtest did struggle with. I like how I said I'm going to ignore the playtest, but I keep bringing up the playtest. But I think this is great. For those really low-level Gunslingers, getting a free +1 to damage on non-critical hits is going to help a ton. I can't tell you how bad it felt to play like a level 3 Gunslinger who would fire and then deal 1 damage. Like, cool, I managed to hit, and I roll a 1 on my d6. Fun. Though the curse part of this comes from the second paragraph. Because the Gunslinger is so focused on firearms, their capacity to learn other weapons is inherently limited. They can only increase their proficiency with unarmed strikes, simple and martial weapons via their class features. Even if you somehow take a multi-class or an archetype that would give you expert proficiency with light weapons, what is this? Simple weapons, you cannot increase it to expert until you get the class proficiency. This is going to destroy every dual class option for martial gunslingers. Obviously, this wasn't designed for the dual class variant because the dual class variant is a variant, but this means if you are a gunslinger and you take any other martial class, like fighter, you don't increase your proficiency with other weapons. This means if you haven't seen my fighter dual class tier list, first off, come on. The Gunslinger deserves an even lower rank than I gave it, which I won't spoil, but this is brutal. This one feature makes the Gunslinger possibly the worst dual class option for any martial character. So let's start talking about subclasses here, the Gunslinger's ways. Each of them is going to give you a couple of different features to add to your character. First off, you're going to get proficiency in certain skills, you're going to get a special type of reload action, and then also an initial, advanced, and greater deed. These are almost similar to something like a sorcerer's focus spells, but they just give you new and interesting actions and abilities. Starting off with the Way of the Drifter, which is designed to be a pistol and sword fighter, very similar to a standard like pirate captain you might see with a blade and saber in one hand and a little flintlock pistol in the other. Drifter gunslingers are trained in acrobatics, and they start with reloading strike. So long as you are holding a one-handed firearm or crossbow and a one-handed weapon, for a single action you get to strike with your melee weapon and reload your firearm. This is absolutely incredible. Not only because this is two actions for one action, this is a strike and a reload, but usually you need a free hand to reload. This action specifically gets rid of that requirement. Now, you can't just normally reload while dual wielding. That's sort of the limitation. The Drifter, while dual wielding, has to use reloading strike. Why? I have no idea. But technically, yes, if you're dual wielding, you can't reload your gun, but if you can stab someone, you can reload your gun. Maybe you use their blood as like a lubricant or something, I don't know. Drifters at level 1 start with Into the Fray, which is a free action they can use whenever they roll initiative. This is actually kind of insane. All for a free action. When you roll initiative, you can draw a one-handed melee weapon, a one-handed firearm or crossbow, and on your first turn of combat, your first action can be a stride action for free. This gives you 3 free actions on your first turn of combat at level 1. Sure, it's draw, move, but that's incredible. The positioning ability of the Drifter Gunslinger is probably unmatched at first level. That is crazy good. The only limitation with this one is you do need to stride toward an enemy with that free action. You can't stride back or sideways. You must end your movement closer to the enemy than you were before. Finish the Job is a level 9 ability for the Drifter and is a really good backup option. For a single action, if your previous action was an attack with a firearm or crossbow, you can make an attack with your melee weapon, and it is at the same bonus as your previous attack. The multiple attack penalty does not apply to this second attack. The penalty still stacks up as normal. This is still the second attack this turn, so if you attack again, you'll be at 2 MAP, but this ain't bad at all. This is phenomenal. This is what the fighter's pressing strike wishes it could be. Drifter's Wake is okay. It's fantastic because you get the greater deed at level 15 automatically, and it's not a feat sync, but it's not overly crazy powerful, but it is pretty powerful. For 3 actions, you make a single stride action, and you can attack 3 times throughout that stride. These attacks can be made with either a melee weapon or a firearm or crossbow. Now, the limitation is that the firearm, of course, can only be used for one of these attacks because it needs to be reloaded. What's awesome, though, is it doesn't say you need to be in melee to do this. So if you want to Drifter's Wake, move, stab someone, slice someone else, and then at the end of your stride, shoot someone 20 feet away, you can absolutely do that. And the best part is that all 3 of these attacks are at your full multiple attack bonus. No multiple attack penalty applies until after the 3rd strike. So this is fantastic action economy. No complaints here. Way of the Pistolero. This is for your pistol hopping, I don't know of fancy ways to you have 1 or 2 pistols. You're trained in either deception or intimidation, and you start with, raconteurs, reload. For 1 action, you get to demoralize or create a diversion and reload. Again, just this fantastic gunslinger action economy of 2 actions for 1 action. Yeah, that's amazing. You know, if you demoralize, they're going to be frightened. You've already reloaded for free, so now you basically get a +1 to shoot them in the face. This video is going to get demonetized because we're talking about guns. The Pistoleros' initial deed at level 1 is 10 paces. As a free action when they roll initiative, not only do they get +2 to their initiative roll, they also get to draw their one-handed firearm and can take a 5-foot step as a free action on their first turn. 10-foot step? 10-foot step. That's really good. At 9th level, they get Pistoleros Retort, which is a reaction. This is a ranged attack of opportunity. If somebody within the first range increment of your pistol critically misses their attack against you, you get to shoot them in the face. The only downside with this is that pistols have pretty criminally low range increments, so it's going to be like 20 feet. However, it doesn't say ranged attack. If somebody critically misses a melee attack, you can, say it with me, shoot them in the face. Grim Swagger at level 15 is pretty cool. It is a massive 30-foot AoE Demoralize. You get to try to intimidate all creatures within a 30-foot emanation of yourself. What's cool about this one is it's effectively a fancy Demoralize you can use Deception for if you choose. You could be lying about how crazy terrifying you should be, and it'll work just as well. You roll Deception or Intimidation against the will DC of every creature in the 30-foot area around you, and if you succeed, they're all frightened 2, frightened 3 on a crit success. Additionally, if they're lower level than you on a crit success, they're also fleeing. This is amazing. Even on a normal success, to hit every creature, frightened 2, giving them -2 to attack rolls, -2 to armor class, -2 to saving throws. That is massive! If you hit 5 creatures with this, that's insane. And remember, frightened only goes down by 1 per round. So that's giving me another whole round of them all at frightened 1. Your party is going to be able to capitalize on this. If you can hit this on a group and then your wizard throws a high-level fireball with them all taking that penalty to saving throws. Oh! The Way of the Sniper. I bet you can't guess what weapons this one uses. They begin trained in stealth and get the covered reload action. For one action, you can take cover or hide and reload. Obviously, you need to be in an appropriate place to do either of these actions, but this is really cool and great for the protection of the sniper. If you're already behind a barricade or around a corner, this means you can duck behind cover, reload, and now you have a loaded firearm, and you have the AC bonus from cover. Very nice overall. One shot, one kill is probably my least favorite initial deed of all of them. While the other ones get these really cool initiative and positioning bonuses, the sniper gets 1d6 precision damage on its first attack in combat, and only if you got to roll stealth for initiative. So if you got ambushed, tough. If you weren't ready for this, tough. Did you miss your first shot? Tough. It also goes up very slowly, only to 2d6 at 9th level and 3d6 at 15th level. It's just not that much bonus damage. I understand they're trying to make it, the sniper should hopefully be trying to one-shot a creature, and don't get me wrong, if you critically hit, that's a lot of damage with the fatal trait doubling this. That's really nice. But if you don't crit, you might be doing about 2d6 plus 1 damage at level 1, which is cool, but it's only on your first shot. Now, 9th level is where the sniper really comes into their own with Vital Shot. This is a ranged power attack with a gun. For 2 actions, you take the shot. If it hits, you deal an additional weapon damage die, and you inflict persistent bleeding damage if they were flat-footed, equal to the precision damage of 1 shot, 1 kill, which is 2d6. So now you have this 2-action shot, which not only adds a damage die, but also inflicts 2d6 persistent bleed damage. Now that is a lot of fun. The critical Vital Shot, that's what you live for as a sniper. You live for turn 1, critical Vital Shot with 1 shot, 1 kill while they're flat-footed. Oh. Ghost Shot is fine. At level 15, it's pretty good. For 1 action, you make a shot, and if you were hidden or undetected, you get to add the damage bonus from 1 shot, 1 kill. Now, this does not stack if it is also your first shot of the encounter, but let me paint this picture for you at level 15. The fight starts, you're already loaded. You take the shot, you deal your normal damage, plus 1 shot, 1 kill. You also happen to be behind a bush. For your next action, you use your fancy Gunslinger's Reload to hide and reload. You succeed your stealth check, your weapon's reloaded, use Ghost Shot. You fire again, that one, because you successfully were hidden, deals your normal damage plus the 3d6 from one shot, one kill again. It's great. Is it better than Vital Shot? Probably not, but if you've already used Vital Shot and the target is bleeding, then hey, no reason not to use Ghost Shot from then on, and then use Vital Shot when you need to reapply the bleed. Alright, let's talk about the new one I have never even looked at, Way of the Vanguard, which seems to be all about shotguns. They begin trained in athletics and get Clear a Path, which is a single action, probably reloads, and requires you to be holding a two-handed firearm or crossbow, so a heavy crossbow will work for this. This is a very fancy shove action, so of course you do get to reload as part of this single action, but you also get to shove one creature in front of you with your weapon. And if your weapon happens to have a bonus potency rune, like a +1, you get to add that to your shove check. Additionally, if the action you took before this one was to shoot with that weapon, you'll get to shove at the same bonus as that attack. So you can fire and then shove at your full multiple attack bonus without suffering any penalty, and as usual, the penalty accrues as normal. That's pretty cool. It doesn't do any extra damage or anything, but it is just a little bit of battlefield control. You can shoot someone, you can get them off you at no penalty, and all at level 1, pretty solid. If they don't have a reach weapon, they're going to waste an action stepping back up to you next turn, which is never a bad thing. Living Fortification is okay. As a free action, when you roll initiative, you can draw a single two-handed firearm or crossbow, and you get a +1 to armor class until the start of your first turn, +2 if the weapon also has the parry trait. This is okay. If you roll really low on initiative, this is actually amazing. If you have a parry weapon, +2 to armor class when you already are a dex-based class that can wear medium armor, that's massive. You're going to have a huge AC for level 1. The problem is it defends you from going last at initiative, but if you go first, this does nothing, and you basically lose everything. It's still quick draw, which is not bad. A lot of people take that as a feat at level 2 or 4 just to get this ability, so that's not bad. It's just a little underwhelming. Spinning Crush is just so stupid and hilarious. You begin spinning, and you fire your weapon to give you momentum to spin in a massive circle, and you hit every creature adjacent to you for 1d6 damage, and this damage does go up with striking runes, so 2d6 with striking, 3d6 with greater striking, whatever, and when they get hit, they attempt a basic reflex save, so you don't even need to roll to attack. If they fail, they take full damage and are pushed 5 feet away, and if they crit fail, they're taking double damage. You also get to add your strength modifier. This would be really fun for a strength-based gunslinger, and I'm kind of glad they made this a thing. A strength-based gunslinger sounds like a ton of fun, who is literally like smacking and shoving people with his weapon. That's just really clever design to me. Sorry, my ice fell over and I got thirsty. So Siegebreaker might be the coolest thing I've read so far from Guns and Gears as an entire book. For 3 actions, you jump or stride. At the end of your stride action, you shove the barrel of your gun into your target and pull the trigger. You ignore 10 points of hardness and deal 3d8 additional bludgeoning damage. Holy cow! On top of that, you become immobilized afterwards and get AC bonus just like your initiative thing. Holy cow, that's so cool! You literally just run at someone, shove your gun in their gut, and blast them. So anyway, I started blasting. This is amazing. This is so cool. I'm just sad it's level 15. It's only 2 actions. I thought it was 3. After that, you can, like, slap him in the face a little bit if you want, or shove him. Cool! As for class features, gunslingers aren't too exciting. It's some pretty typical martial stuff. They get most of their things from feats. You got your skill feats, your general feats, your skill increases. At 3rd level, the gunslinger becomes a little more resistant to controlling effects specifically. Their will saves increase to expert, and if you fail but don't critically fail against an effect that would give you the controlled conditions specifically, you can make a second save. The second save is just a normal save, but even if you fail, you don't get to make a third one. So it's basically just a second chance specifically against controlling effects. Kind of interesting. I don't know why they gave it to the Gunslinger, but hey, it's something unique and I like it. Ability boosts, ancestry feats, weapon mastery, so their firearms go up to master proficiency and everything else goes up to expert. Of course, nothing else can increase to expert until they get this class feature. Perception to Master, Weapon Specialization, their 9th level Gunslinger Subclass deed, and Class DC up to Expert. Level 11 sees their Reflex saves increase to Master, which means they auto-crit succeed normal successes. Level 13 is Legendary Proficiency with Firearms, Master with all other weapons, and Medium Armor Expertise, which is Expert in Armor. So this is the point where they're really starting to fall behind in the whole defense department, as their proficiency lacks behind some other classes. Level 15, they get their level 15 subclass feature. They also get greater weapon specialization. At level 17, their fortitude saves increase to master and auto crit succeed normal successes. Level 17 is a huge power spike as they get Shootist's Edge, increases class DC to master, but they also ignore the penalty from the second and third range increments on their weapons. This gives those close range pistol fighters a lot more room to shoot from mid-range, and snipers are just shooting from across the football field, so you won't see them ever again. And unfortunately, level 19 is really boring. They don't get a capstone feature. I guess Shootist's Edge is their capstone. Instead, they just get Master in Perception and Master in Medium Armor. All right, let's get into the meat. 30 minutes into this recording.
The bird sings of my domain.
It's time to talk Gunslinger feats, and I'm probably not gonna do the whole thing in this accent. But for the sake of those Old West gunslingers out there, I'll read the first one, like so. We're talking Blast Lock. For one action, so long as you're wielding a loaded firearm, you can shoot it at a lock. Instead of using thievery to pick the lock, you simply attack it instead. If you succeed, you open that lock. And if it's a complex lock, you make progress. If you crit succeed, you make 2 steps of progress toward that complex lock. Now, should you fail to shoot that lock, the DC is actually increasing by 2. Technically, you're taking a penalty to all future checks, but it's the same idea. It's 2 harder to succeed. If you crit fail, you busted that lock up pretty bad, inflicting a -4 circumstance penalty to all future attempts to pick that lock, whether it be with a gun or a lockpick. There was a lot of controversy around this feat when it appeared in the playtest, and it's interesting that they didn't really change it. This is a big example of why is this a feat? Well, I believe it's a feat because A, it doesn't attack the lock. You're not destroying the lock. You are literally picking the lock with a bullet. How does that work? I don't know. It's cool. But note, it does not say the lock is destroyed. You know, if you attack a lock with a hatchet, you're going to need to get through the lock's hardness, you're going to need to beat the AC, you're going to need to do enough damage to break it, which means it can't be used afterwards. With Blast Lock, you can shoot it, and then if you want to, you can pick it up and relock it. It does not break it, which I think is an important distinction and why this is such a cool feat. Cover fire is pretty neat and one of the support tools in the Gunslinger's kit. For one action once per round, you can shoot a creature, and if they choose to, they can cover themselves. If they don't have cover, they get a +2 against your attack. If they're already behind cover, they get a +4 to AC against your attack. Now, they do get a -2 to all ranged attacks they make until the end of their next turn. Also, if they choose not to duck, you get a +1 to hit, which is already on top of your expert proficiency at level 1, which is nutty. So, this is a really cool feat. I like it. If your fighter needs to get up to someone who's hiding and firing arrows, you can provide cover fire, and sure, your attack may miss, but they suddenly just got a lot less accurate with all of their attacks shooting the fighter who's running up to them. Crossbow Crackshot is basically the same feat that the Ranger has. If you reload a crossbow, you get a +2 circumstance bonus to damage with the next attack made with that crossbow. What's unfortunate is that this does not stack with the natural +1 gunslingers get, so it's just a +1 to damage, basically, not a full +2. But on the upside, it does increase the crossbow's damage die by 1 step, provided it's a simple crossbow, which most crossbows are simple. This is okay. It's probably going to be a required feat if you want to be an effective crossbow gunslinger, at least mechanically speaking. It's cool. I like it. I don't think it would have been broken to make the +2 stack with singular expertise. Just make it a +3 and it would work the same way. I think that'd be fine. It'd be a lot of fun. It would give a lot of credence and viability to the crossbow if you can suddenly be adding a flat +3 damage on your shots. That's really cool. Dual weapon reload. I bet you can't guess what this does. For 1 action, even if you're dual wielding, you can reload a weapon. That's it. Simple as that. If you're not the way of the drifter, you might need this if you're going to be dual wielding. Alternatively, you can just do the Chad move and have 50 pistols on you, and whenever one runs out of ammo, you throw it down and pull out another one, like Drake of the 99 Dragons. Hit the dirt. If you see a ranged attack coming your way, you can use your reaction to gain +2 to your armor class, as well as leap up to your full leap distance, but you always land prone. Pretty cool. It's some nice movement on top of something. It's not just nimble dodge again, so it's a solid AC buff. It's movement, but you land prone. A bonus and a little negative. I like it. Munitions Crafter is awesome. You get the Alchemist's Infused Reagents feature, which gives you a number of reagents equal to your intelligence modifier plus your level, and you get formulas for 4 first-level items. Now, these items can only be bombs and alchemical ammunition, which I believe is a new type of item. So you can make fancy ammo to shoot out of your guns, you can make fancy bombs to throw at people, or you can just use it to make normal, low-grade ammunition, and if you do, you get a ton of it. Every single batch of reagent, which at level 1 you'll probably be getting at least 2 or 3, makes 10 rounds of ammo. This means if you're just in the middle of the woods, you are stripped of everything but your pistol, you can still make ammunition, and I think that should not be overlooked. Sword and pistol is a really cool way to inflict flat-footed. If you are dual-wielding specifically a handgun, gun. If you are dual-wielding a one-handed melee weapon and a one-handed firearm, and you attack with the melee weapon first, then your next attack, if it is with your ranged weapon, does not trigger reactions like attacks of opportunity. On the other hand, if you make a successful attack with your ranged weapon first, then the enemy is flat-footed if your next attack is with your melee weapon. This is a cool way to reward you for attacking and switching weapons as you attack, and this is going to be incredibly powerful on the drifter, being able to shoot and then strike reload, making them flat-footed to that strike, and then maybe they can shoot again, which won't trigger reactions, even though it's going to be a huge multiple attack penalty. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with sword and pistol. Defensive armament is going to be amazing for the way of the Vanguard because it makes any two-handed firearm you wield gain the parry trait. Simple as that. That's going to make all the Vanguard abilities give the +2 to armor class instead of +1. Plus, you can also still take the parry action to give you +2 armor class. This is phenomenal. It also upgrades the parry trait if your weapon already had parry, making the parry action give you +2 instead of +1. Overall, really cool for a defensive, bulky firearms gunslinger, and I love it. Fake Out is a really interesting reaction. If your ally is attacking a creature, you can spend a reaction to make it look like you are also attacking that creature. You make an attack roll just like your ally with the aid action. So if the attack would hit, your ally gets a +1 to their attack. If your attack would crit, your ally gets a +2 to their attack. Additionally, if you had already damaged that creature in the last round, then you get a +1 to your aid check. Really nice on top of your high proficiency. That +1 giving you a +5 on top of your expert. You're probably gonna crit, so giving your ally +2 to their attack, really nice. And I just love the support gunslinger viability. My video from like a year ago still stands. Pistol Twirl is a ranged feint. For 1 action, you make a deception check to feint, and if you succeed, they're flat-footed to your next melee or ranged attack, not just melee like the normal feint action. Just be careful, if you critically fail, you will be flat-footed against their next attacks. The range of this feint is based on your weapon and can only be used if you are within the first range increment of your equipped firearm. Quick Draw. For 1 action, you draw your weapon and attack with it. I don't know why this is a feat. All gunslingers get to draw their weapon for free during initiative. Why is this a feat? I guess for multi-class archetypes, you could take this if you're like a fighter, gunslinger. Why would you ever be a fighter, gunslinger? Risky Reload is phenomenal. For one action, you get to reload your firearm and make a strike. However, if you miss, your firearm misfires. This is something that's not really been covered. If you're more curious about firearm misfires, check out this video I made a few weeks back talking about all the new firearms available in Guns and Gears. So Warning Shot seems kind of insane. So long as you're trained in Intimidation, you can take this feat, and for one action, you can demoralize, but rather than the normal range of 30 feet, you can intimidate up to the firearm's maximum range. Not its range increment, its maximum range, which, if the base rules are to be believed, ranged weapons can attack up to 6 range increments away. If you have a 150-foot range with something like a Drake rifle, you can demoralize from 900 feet away at level 2? Like, I know this won't really do much. It's not a broken mechanic. It just seems insane? Like, how do they even know you're threatening them? I feel like this is a typo. I feel like this has to say, like, maybe up to its 2nd or 3rd range increment. Maximum range seems unnecessary. Of course, this also gets past the -4 penalty if they don't share a language to you, because everyone speaks the language of gun. Alchemical Shot, really, really cool with alchemical ammunition. You have bomb, you have gun, shoot, bomb. For 2 actions, if you're holding a one-handed firearm, you interact to take an alchemical bomb out of your inventory. You then pour the contents into your gun and shoot it. This changes all of the base damage of your firearm into the same damage type as the bomb. If you use Alchemist Fire, your entire shot deals fire damage, and it deals an additional 1d6 damage of that type. All really freaking cool. Be aware, though, even if you normal fail, not a crit fail, if you normal fail your shot, not only does your gun misfire, jamming it, but you take 1d6 damage of the bomb's type. At levels 11 and 17, this persistent damage increases to 2d6 and 3d6 respectively. This is kind of amazing combined with something like Vital Shot on the sniper, because Vital Shot, you can inflict bleed. With Alchemical Shot, you can inflict fire. Keep this in mind, ladies and gentlemen. If you craft a bunch of different elements, you have a cold bomb, a fire bomb, an electric bomb, you can stack these. You hit them with Alchemical Shot 1 round, now they're taking persistent fire damage. Next round, you do it with cold. Now they're taking persistent fire and persistent cold. Then electricity, and all of a sudden at level 4, you've inflicted 3d6 persistent damage, provided they didn't make the save to take any of them off. This is nuts, and I'm here for it. Black Powder Boost. Boost? Black Powder Boost is awesome, and I don't care if you people say it's unrealistic. For 1 or 2 actions, you can rocket jump. You take your firearm and you shoot it down to add a plus 10-foot bonus to whatever distance you travel by jumping. If you spend 2 actions, you can use it to assist your long jump and high jump, or for 1 action, you can just leap. Keep in mind, this adds 10 feet vertically or horizontally. If you need to jump up to a 15-foot ledge, as long as you can high jump at least 5 feet off the ground, you can Black Powder Boost all the way up to 15 feet, grab it and pull yourself up. This is so cool. I think level 4 is honestly a little too high, especially because you're getting close to the point where some characters can already like polymorph into a fly and get up there, or even cast something that lets them fly, but this is still really neat and I love it. And fun fact, if you have the Quick Jump skill feat, you can use this alongside your high jump, long jump for 1 action, just like the Quick Jump. It's so well designed, guys. I love this system. Instant backup is kinda cool. As a reaction, if your weapon ever misfires and jams, you can drop it and draw a new one. Will this save you a ton? Maybe not, because you've already fired, which means you're already going to be suffering a multiple attack penalty, but hey, you don't have to reload that, you don't need to unjam that, you already have a new loaded gun to use at the start of the next turn at the very least, or take a shot with, granted at lowered accuracy, this turn. Paired shots is just amazing. For 2 actions, you shoot twice, and both are at your full multiple attack penalty, or current multiple attack penalty, and their damage is combined. This is something I haven't talked about enough in past videos, but it's something I'm coming to appreciate more and more as I play more Pathfinder. Anything that allows you to attack multiple times and combine their damage is huge, because certain things like, say, a golem might have hardness 10. So if you shoot it for 15, you're only doing 5 damage. If you shoot it for 15 twice, you're only doing 10 damage. But with something like paired shots, if they both deal 15 damage, you add that 15 together, make it 30, and then you subtract the hardness, meaning you did 20 damage. You doubled your damage because they were added together. And as your numbers get higher and hardness gets higher, that becomes more and more important. The fact that they're both at the same multiple attack penalty is also crazy good. The only limitation is that paired shots both need to be on the exact same target, and you need to be dual wielding, obviously. Running reload, just another way to get good action economy. When you reload, you can also stride, step, or sneak. You are just my favorite person. I love... What is your name? I need to remember your name, because it's really hard to remember, but I love you, and you are like my favorite iconic. Nalmika Ironsight. I love you, Nalmika. I'm never going to remember your name. I can barely remember my own, but you are probably one of my favorite iconics. Advanced Shooter is pretty great, and I wish we had more feats like this available to more classes. You pick firearms or crossbows, and forevermore, advanced weapons of that group are considered martial, which means you get to apply your entire proficiency to them, rather than being -2 behind everything else. Unfortunately, to my knowledge, only fighters and gunslingers get a feat like this, so no one else can really make any good use of advanced weaponry. Cauterize is so amazing and just plays perfectly into the support role of the gunslinger. Let's say you're sitting there and your cleric has just been cut. They're bleeding profusely and you need to cauterize that wound instantly. Well, you take your loaded firearm, you shoot somebody, and in the same action you twirl your gun and press the superheated barrel against their wound, and they get to instantly make a roll to get rid of their persistent bleed with the lower DC of effective help, which I think makes it DC 10 or something. It's just so funny, and I love it, and it's just such a good roleplay mechanic, like, this is gonna hurt. Bang! Oh, it's a thing of beauty. Drifter's Juke for 2 actions, only for Way of the Drifter. This is pretty great. You need to be specifically holding a one-handed firearm and one-handed melee weapon, but for 2 actions, you get 4. Step, strike, step, strike. 1 strike needs to be with the firearm, 1 strike needs to be with the weapon, but this is great if, say, your target happens to be, 10 feet away from you. You can step 5 feet, shoot them in the face, step 5 feet, stab them in the face. Perfectly done. Fantastic. The only downside is that the second attack does suffer from multiple attack penalty, so your melee strike or range strike, whichever one is second, is probably going to be a little weaker. But remember, does this stack with sword and pistol? It sure does. It's not your next action, it is your next strike before the end of the turn. So yes, if you have sword and pistol and you have Drifter's Juke, then you can step, shoot, step, stab, and guess what? They're flat-footed. Mwah! Munitions Machinist, if you have the alchemical ammunition crafting from level 1, 2, whichever it was, your alchemical crafting level is now your level -3 rather than being stuck at level 1. It now grows in level with you, which means you can make some really cool ammunition. Phalanx Breaker is what every Way of the Vanguard wants. For 2 actions, you make a ranged strike with a 2-handed firearm or crossbow, and if you hit them, they are instantly shoved back 10 feet, 20 feet if you critically hit them, and if they hit an obstacle, they take bludgeoning damage equal to half your level. So it's not a lot of bonus bludgeoning damage, but it's just cool to be able to shoot somebody and knock them back. No save, nothing. If you hit, they're going back. What's kind of hilarious is that there's no size restriction. If there is a gargantuan creature who is like 30 feet by 30 feet and you shoot them, they're pushed back 10 feet. As long as you hit them, they are pushed back. Kinda cool. Pistoleros Challenge is one of my favorite kind of feat designs in that it gives you a huge bonus, but it also gives you a big detriment. You get to roll Deception or Intimidation against one creature's will DC within 30 feet. If you succeed on your check, they are forced to accept your challenge. Until one of you is defeated, flees, or the fight is over, you deal bonus damage to each other. This starts at +2, but goes up as your mastery and proficiency in the skill used goes up. If you are legendary intimidation when you use Pistoleros challenge, you deal 4 additional damage to each other. And the best part? Regardless of the result of your check, the target is immune to your challenge until noon. And if you crit fail, you get scared, and you can't use the challenge again for 1 minute. What's fantastic about this is there's nothing that says you can't use this on multiple targets, so you can challenge someone and then take the first shot all in the same turn. This is basically a 1 action plus damage on your next attack. Really cool, and this is a status bonus, so it does stack with Crack Crossbow Shot, which I believe was a circumstance bonus, so that's a lot of bonus damage if you use this with a crossbow. Scatterblast is fine. I like that there's support for scatter weapons like shotguns. For 2 actions, if your weapon has the scatter trait, your range increment increases by 20 feet, and the radius of the scatter blast increases by 20 feet, which is massive, because that says radius, which means the total burst of it is increased by 40 feet. Insane. But scatter doesn't deal all that much damage. If you're fighting 50 enemies, this will be fantastic. Dealing 3 or 4 damage to 50 enemies, really cool. But is it worth misfiring on a failure and breaking your gun on a crit failure? This is going to explode, it's going to deal damage to you and all creatures in a 20-foot burst. It's not great. Like, at least you can fix it, but that gun is useless for the rest of the encounter. Sure, 4 splash damage in like a 50-foot burst, not bad, but also not great. It's level 6, 4 damage isn't all that much, and it's level 6, it's only going to be 2 damage. Why? If this like doubled the damage of the scatter trait, that would be super cool. I think that's what it needs most. And the Sniper Subclasses, Sniper's Aim is probably the least exciting level 6 feat. For 2 actions, you shoot and you gain a +2 to hit, you ignore concealment, and if it happens to have kickback and you can't control it, you get to ignore kickback as well. This would be good if the sniper didn't have other 2 action attacks like Vital Shot at level 9 that it wanted to use. I think snipers will also make great use of things like the alchemical ammunition, so Sniper's Aim, not terribly exciting. The problem otherwise is that level 6 pretty much only gives you offerings for your subclass and 1 or 2 other things, so hopefully gunslingers will at least get 1 or 2 more level 6 feats in the future. Bullet Split is stupid. And I really like it. You have to be holding a one-handed firearm and a slashing melee weapon in the other hand. You line your sword up, press your barrel perfectly against it, and take a shot. From there, the bullet hits your blade and splits in half, allowing you to shoot 2 targets at the same multiple attack bonus for 1 action. The targets do need to be adjacent to one another, and you take a -2 on both shots, but this is just so funny and over the top, and I'm absolutely here for it. Again, they use the term within your weapon's maximum range. Why does that matter, I guess? You know? Like, was that a placeholder text that was supposed to be changed to range increment? Because that feels weird. Because again, if you're using a sniper, you can use Bullet Split from 900 feet away. Sure, you're gonna be at like -14 to the shots, but still, you can do it. Brit and Tenacity, once per hour. If you fail a Fortitude or Will save, you can roll it again at +2. Plain and simple, I like it. Leap and Fire is such a fun upgrade to hit the dirt. Now, when you use your reaction to hit the dirt, you jump, you get +2 to your armor class, and as you're mid-flight, you take a shot. I'm stuck. The shot has to be against the creature who triggered the reaction, but it's a really cool return fire ability that we haven't seen a lot of. The only other example I can think of is the monk who can catch and throw arrows back at targets. It's really cool and I love it.
So it's about 1 in the morning and I'm editing this, but I explained Smoke Curtain so wrong and misunderstand it so bad that I needed to completely re-record an explanation for this feat. Smoke curtain's really simple. For 2 actions, you load extra powder into your gun. You make a range strike as normal, that deals damage and whatever, but you also explode a 20-foot emanation of smoke on your location. Plain and simple. But I'm going to leave in my bad explanation just so you can see how bad I am sometimes at interpreting text. So go ahead and enjoy this. Ignore everything I'm about to say about smoke curtain. It's so wrong.
Smoke curtain's okay. For 2 actions, you take a pile of black powder, you throw it into the air, and you shoot it with your firearm. It explodes and creates a smoke cloud of 20-foot burst, concealing everyone inside, and everyone outside, of course, is concealed to those inside. The smoke only lasts until the start of your next turn, though my question comes from this. You make a strike with your firearm. What's the DC? Is it a standard DC for your level? If so, why? Why, as you level up, does it get harder to hit the smoke above you? Are you shooting a creature and you're shooting through the smoke? Maybe that's it. Maybe that's what I'm not understanding. Maybe you take the powder, you throw it up between you and your target, and you shoot through it, so it makes the smoke, and then the bullet still travels to its original target. I think that might be what it means, because it says if you critically fail your strike, you misfire. So I think that's what it means. You throw up the powder between you and your target, and you still shoot the target like normally, it just also creates the smoke. In which case, this is better than it originally thought, because I originally didn't think it counted as an attack as well. Stab and Blast is insane. Now, you have to have a weapon with a bayonet or some kind of weapon on the end of your firearm, and you need to make a melee strike first. But if you successfully melee strike them, you can then make a ranged attack in point blank with +2 to the attack roll. Also, this is at the same multiple attack bonus. Also, this is 1 action! This is 1 action to attack twice, and if the first attack hits, the second attack is +2 more accurate. And again, even crazier, the second attack is with your firearm. So the first one, you're level 8, you've got probably, expert with a rapier? Let's say you stab with a rapier. No, it's not a rapier, it's the thing. So no, wait, it's still with the firearm. They're both with the firearm. You have master proficiency, and if you hit, you get +2. That's basically legendary proficiency at level 8. Holy crap! Called Shot. For 2 actions, you pick a part of your target's body, the arms, legs, head, or wings, and then make your shot. If you successfully hit the target, they get a different debilitation depending on where you called the shot. If you hit their arms, they are enfeebled 2 until the end of your next turn, and enfeebled 1 for a minute on a crit. The head works the exact same way, but stupefied. Stage 2 for 1 round, and stage 1 for a minute on a crit. The legs inflict a 10-foot speed penalty for 1 turn, and on a critical hit, a -5-foot speed penalty for a full minute, and wings shoot them out of the sky. If you are able to hit them in the wings, it falls 20 feet down. If you critically hit, it falls 40 feet. Unfortunately, and I'm so kind of upset about this, Pathfinder is very afraid of fall damage, 2E specifically, so any feat like this always says they fall gradually enough that they take no damage. Come on, let me shoot a dragon out of the sky and it just falls 40 feet and takes 4d6 damage as it face plants. It's only falling a max of 40 feet. 4d6 damage at level 8? 10. That's not that bad. Come on, just let me face plant a dragon out of the sky. Deflecting Shot. As a reaction, if an ally is within your first range increment of your weapon and they are about to be hit by an attack and your firearm is loaded, you can spend your reaction and shoot off your firearm to give your ally a temporary +2 armor class against that attack. What's nice is you can use this reaction after the result is revealed. If you know they just got critically hit by +1 over their AC, you can use Deflecting Shot to turn it into a normal hit. Just like that, if they are only 1 over being hit, you can use Deflecting Shot to turn it into a miss. It is fantastic. If you have something like a Swashbuckler on your team, and you know that creature just barely escaped a critical miss, you can use your reaction to make it a critical miss, triggering your Swashbuckler's reaction to attack for free. Fantastic reaction with tons of versatility. It'll never not be useful. Penetrating fire. For 2 actions, shoot 2 targets who happen to be adjacent to each other, and you can shoot straight through them. Roll once, apply it to both, deal damage to both. Simple feat. Stutter. Next feat! Precious Munitions. Now, you can spend your infused reagents you used to make your magical fancy ammo to make cold iron, adamantine, and silver ammunition. And 1 batch of reagents only makes 1 shot, but you're level 10. You might have like a 14 or 16 intelligence. You can make 13 or 14 shots of this. If you know you're going against a werewolf, load up on silver shot. Know what I'm saying? And then at level 15, you can make the high grade version of all those ammunitions. I'm so happy that Rebounding Assault stayed in the game. It is the stupidest feat in Pathfinder 2e, and I'm so happy it's still here. For 2 actions, if you are wielding a one-handed melee weapon and a one-handed firearm, you throw your melee weapon and you shoot it with your firearm to make it go faster and hit harder. You need to make a ranged thrown weapon strike with your melee weapon and a ranged strike with your firearm, both at your full bonus, which is nice. Multiple attack penalty doesn't apply until after. You can do this even if your melee weapon doesn't have the thrown trait. Granted, its range increment is only 10 feet if it doesn't. If both attacks are successful, combine the damage. You get to combine the damage of your melee weapon and your bullet into one big hit and deal 1d6 additional precision damage. The best part? The impact causes your weapon, even if it does piercing or slashing damage, to ricochet off the target back to your hand. I love this feat. It's so dumb. But again, being able to combine damage into one hit, like I was just talking about, it's big for getting around resistance and hardness. It's a good feat. Redirecting Shot. As a reaction, if you see an ally miss their ranged attack, you can shoot your gun to put their projectile back on track. Now, unfortunately, this doesn't mean they get to use your attack instead. They can't make use of your master proficiency at this point. They only can make use of your die roll. So if they rolled a 5 and missed, you can use your reaction, and if you roll a 16, they get to take that 16 and apply their bonuses. I do like it more this way. I believe in the playtest they got to use your total result instead, and that kind of felt bad because it felt like the Gunslinger got to take your attack for you, whereas this way they just get to help you by rolling an extra die, effectively giving you D&D style advantage, and you can choose to take the higher one. Additionally, it does ignore lesser and standard cover, which can make a big +2, +4 difference to your accuracy. It's a great reaction. I love the support Gunslinger and how many options they have for reactions. Trickshot is really tough to use for the GM, but a lot of fun, and the GM can have fun making sure that every situation just happens to have something that can be Trickshot. You make an attack against an easy DC of your level, which you should never miss with your master proficiency in firearms, and you shoot at either an object that can be dislodged or something that is explosive. If it can be dislodged, you can move it up to 10 feet in any direction. The example it gives is if a wizard is pondering an orb, you can knock it 10 feet in any direction, knock it off a table, and shatter it. Cool. If something is explosive, doesn't matter if it's a bottle of rum or an actual Half-Life exploding barrel, you can shoot it and it does 6d6 damage with a basic reflex save in a 20-foot burst. There's a T at the end of burst. And it's all against your class DC. This is so dumb, and I love it. And every time you go up 2 levels, the damage of the explosion goes up. Keep in mind, this means maybe your barbarian keeps a tankard of ale, a big barrel of ale on hand, a very volatile rum that you can just sneak over, set it down, walk away, and you can just boop. Who needs a wizard? You've got Fireball. Twin shot knockdown is fine. For 2 actions, if you are dual wielding 2 single-handed firearms or crossbows, you shoot both of them. One is at the first multiple attack penalty. This does suffer from it as normal, but if you hit with both strikes, it is an auto knockdown. This is good. I don't think it's quite as strong as the fighter's knockdown, because the fighter only needs to successfully hit one time. But yeah, if you can hit with 2 ranged attacks, they are knocked prone. Pretty solid. I can't complain about this. Prone is such a powerful condition in Pathfinder 2e, especially if you have someone with attack of opportunity on your team.
I went on vacation. But now I'm back, so let's talk about more gun stuff. Level 12's Blood in the Air is okay. For 1 action, you make a ranged strike against a creature, and if that creature happens to be concealed or hidden, and you've damaged them within the last minute, you can completely ignore the concealed condition and reduce the DC to hit them if they're completely hidden. This is not terrible. It's basically blind fight with extra steps, but a minute is a long time. If something casts invisibility in the middle of combat, even if you can't see it, you still have a really high chance to hit it. This is nice. Basically, it's blind fight, but it only applies to this specific shot. But, you know, your firearms. You're not going to do many fancy shots a lot of the time. Sure, maybe you can't do something like your subclasses actions, but you can still shoot them while they're invisible, and that's nothing to sneeze at. Alternatively, if you want to go full in to counter invisible creatures, you can use Deadeye. Deadeye is, in my opinion, worse than Blood in the Air. For 1 action, you can see invisible creatures until the start of your next turn. Kind of. Until the start of your next turn, invisible creatures are merely concealed instead of hidden. Now, this raises some questions on why you would take this over Blood in the Air. Now, obviously, Deadeye, you don't need to have hit them. Blood in the Air, you need to have hit them with a bullet, a ranged attack of some kind within the last minute. Deadeye, you can just use it, and you can see invisibility, which there's no cooldown on this, so you can probably say, GM, I'm going to keep using Deadeye while we're exploring this tunnel, and even though you can't see the full form of invisible creatures, you will be able to tell they are there from just the minute little details. So that is useful. Deadeye is great as an exploration tool, whereas Blood in the Air is better in the middle of combat, so take your pick. Deadeye, because it makes them concealed, means you'll still need to pass that DC 5 to hit them, so it's a very similar effect to Blood in the Air, just a little different, I suppose, a little different taste of the same flavor. Flesh Wound isn't great for firearms. If you're using something like a heavy crossbow, I think this feat has some viability. But basically, for 1 action, you take extra precautions, and even if your attack is going to miss, you still get to deal 1 damage die. The problem is that firearms have very low base damage die. Most firearms deal bonus damage thanks to fatal or deadly traits. However, if you're using something like a crossbow, which already has like a D10 or even a D12 damage die, then it gets a little bit better. What is nice is you do get to add weapon specialization, which at level 12, you're getting really close to greater weapon specialization, which means this attack, even if you miss, not a critical miss, but a normal miss, you're still going to deal, 8 bonus damage on top of your damage die? That ain't terrible. Plus, this does not have to be used on your first attack, and honestly, it can be used on every attack, which, granted, again, you're a gunslinger, so it's not going to be super amazing, but hold on. This doesn't say a firearm. You could use this with a bow. It would be terrible because you'd have no other support, but if you use this, or honestly not even with a bow, I guess there are weapons now that have the clip feature, so you only have to reload like every 6 shots or whatever. So with Flesh Wound, you could use Flesh Wound 3 times in 1 turn. It's not a flourish, it's not a press. So you can Flesh Wound 3 times, and even if all 3 of your attacks miss, you're still dealing 3 damage die plus your weapon specialization 3 times. You know what? Actually, by talking about it, I have completely come around to Flesh Wound. This is really cool on like a machine gun build. If you're holding weapons that have clips of multiple shots so you can fire 3 times in 1 turn, this is fantastic. Even so, you could use your first shot to do something fancy and then Flesh Wound on your second or third shot because they're less accurate. I actually love this. I did not think I would love this. I have convinced myself. Good job, me. I tip my hat to me. Oh, but to finish my thought from earlier, because I totally ADD'd my way away from it, it just says make a ranged strike, not with a firearm. So if you have something like a short bow or a long bow, you can use Flesh Wound for all of your attacks, and you deal damage on normal misses. If you have a longbow, you're dealing 1d8 plus weapon specialization every single time if you miss, unless you critically miss. So that could be a really interesting gimmicky build. Ricochet Shot is a really interesting and fancy way to get around cover. You can shoot a spot within your first range increment and bounce your projectile off of it. And when determining cover of your target, they have to have cover from the ricochet point, not from your point. So if there's a wall next to them and that's completely adjacent to them, parallel behind their cover, you can shoot the wall, it ricochets off the wall, and if they don't have cover from that wall, it gets past their cover AC bonus. Very fun. Now, one thing it doesn't really say, but I believe it's implied, is that this doesn't become the new starting point of your shot. You need to calculate the distance to the ricochet point, and then from the ricochet point to your target, and that is the total distance you are shooting, so keep that in mind when calculating range, increments, and penalties. Shattering Shot is such a fascinating feat. It's made, obviously, to be combined with the alchemical feats from earlier, but those feats are not a prerequisite. This feat can also be used just if you have an alchemical bomb, which means you can buy them, or if there's an alchemist on your team, they can lend them to you, and this is incredible. For one action, so long as you are holding or wearing a bomb in like a bandolier, you can toss the bomb. You toss it, get this, you toss the bomb to one location within your first range increment? What? What if you have an arquebus? You can just casually toss this bomb 100 feet in the distance, you shoot it, and then every creature in a 15-foot burst takes the full bomb damage. No splash damage, no persistent damage. They're all taking the full bomb damage on a basic reflex save against your class DC. If you're level 12, your alchemist can make level 11 Alchemist Fire, which deals 3d8 damage. Now, this isn't like a fireball, but you know what this is? One action. For 3 actions, if you have 3 bombs on you, you can throw it, shoot it, throw it, shoot it, throw it, shoot it. That is 9d8 damage in a 15-foot burst that is repeatable as long as you have the bombs. And it's a reflex save, so it's not a multiple attack penalty, which means you can also shoot for your full attack bonus, like shoot a single enemy, reload, and then Shattering Shot. This is so cool. I guess you could only Shattering Shot 3 times if you're using a clipped firearm, but even then, this is incredible! I want to make an alchemist and a gunslinger who work together now! Who's with me? At level 12, we also have Shooter's Camouflage. Ooh. Shooter's Camouflage is okay. You pick either urban or natural, and when in that type of terrain, you can hide or sneak even without cover. Nothing special, I think Rangers get something very similar. Unshakable Grit is absolutely insane. It is a direct upgrade to Grit and Tenacity, which, if you recall, is a reaction to reroll a Fortitude or Will save at +2. If you take Unshakable Grit and you use Grit and Tenacity and reroll into a normal success, it is automatically bumped up to a crit success. And even if you crit fail, it's bumped up to a normal failure. You cannot take double damage from a Fortitude or Will save if you use Grit and Tenacity with Unshakable Grit. And if you normal succeed, you're taking no damage and typically no effect. This is amazing and really leads you to be able to make somewhat of a tanky gunslinger, which I would love to do with the, what was it, Paragon Veteran? It's been like 2 weeks since I read this. The big shotgun boy. Tank gunslinger sounds like so much fun. Vanguard, that's the one. Thank you, Blast Tackle. Blast Tackle is a super awesome version of the stab and shoot feat from lower level. For 2 actions, you make a grapple check against 1 enemy. Now, you have to have a 2-handed ranged weapon of a crossbow or firearm to use this, but if you succeed the grapple, you can fire at this person and deal 3d6 bonus precision damage. And so long as they remain grappled, you can reload and keep shooting them with 1 action. You literally have 1 arm around their shoulders, the other on your weapon, pressing it into their chest, firing, and then reloading and firing while holding them and your weapon together. This is kind of brutal, Paizo. Come on. Now, if you make a normal strike, it won't do the 3d6 additional precision damage, but remember, you need to renew your grapple anyway, so with Blast Tackle on the following turn, you can just Blast Tackle again to renew your grapple and fire for the bonus damage. Third action reload, you're in a really good place. The biggest thing holding this feat back is that it doesn't ignore multiple attack penalty. So while your grapple is going to be at your full bonus, your strike is going to be at -5 if you're holding a two-handed firearm. Granted, they are flat-footed because they're grabbed, so you're going to have a little bit better chance, but careful. Come at me, a direct upgrade to Pistoleros challenge. You can have any number of Pistoleros challenges active at one time. This is okay, I guess. The bonus damage to Pistoleros challenge only comes from strikes. So if you can figure out a way to strike multiple people at the same time, this is fantastic. But unfortunately, using something like Shattering Shot to deal AoE damage isn't going to get the damage bonus. And you have to be careful, because everyone you challenge also gets a damage bonus against you. So I don't really see the point of this feat. I guess it gives you more options on who you want to shoot without sacrificing your damage bonus, but it doesn't seem amazing. Dance of Thunder is fascinating. This has changed a lot since the playtest. Dance of Thunder, I believe, was a level 18 feat at the time, but now it is level 14 and comes with a lot of stipulations. Once per minute, if your firearm or crossbow is loaded and you are not fatigued, you may step, strike, and reload in any order you choose. At first, that's not that impressive. That's 3 actions for 3 actions. But if your strike hits, you can do all 3 actions again. Step, strike, reload. And if that strike hits, you can do all 3 actions again. Step, strike, reload. That is 3 step actions, 3 reload actions, and 3 strike actions for 3 total actions spent. And no matter what, you become fatigued for 1 minute after using it. This is going to hurt if you use Dance of Thunder and miss your first shot. That's going to feel awful. You're still fatigued. You still can't use it for 1 minute. That's terrible. But if you can land 3 full shots, that's amazing. In the playtest, this was just a high-level feat that had no way of failing. You just got to take 9 actions for 3, so I think this is a lot more balanced, and I'm glad they lowered the feat level to go with it. I love this. It's super risky, but that often falls in line with the Gunslinger's way of play. They put everything they have into one big move, and if it fails, it really blows up in their face, and I appreciate this. I think Dance of Thunder was made very well in the full release. Disruptive Blur for the Drifter isn't bad. This is just a permanent upgrade forever, and after a strike with a firearm or crossbow, creatures cannot take movement-triggered reactions for the rest of the Drifter's turn. So this is a very selfish ability. It's not going to help your allies, but if you are in combat and you shoot them with your pistol as a Drifter and you hit, well, guess what? You can spend your next 2 actions to run away with stride because you know they can't attack of opportunity you or do anything based on movement. Now, I'm sad it has to be with a firearm or crossbow because, correct me if I'm wrong, but some attacks of opportunity do trigger on ranged attacks in melee. Actually, I think I'm wrong. I don't think in Pathfinder 2nd Edition they do trigger attacks of opportunity because they're not interact actions. So yeah, never mind. Disruptive Blur is even better. You can shoot them in melee with your pistol and get away scot-free, or if you need to run past someone dangerous, you can shoot them first and then run past them. Overall, a really good upgrade for the Drifter Gunslinger. The Way of the Sniper, of course, gets a feat called Headshot, and this might be the lowest character level instant death effect in Pathfinder 2e. For 2 actions, if you have already shot someone in the last minute, and then you critically succeed a shot against them, they need to make a Fortitude save against your class DC, or die instantly. Now, there's a lot of stipulations. It's a death effect, it's an incapacitation effect, but it also doesn't affect things that don't have heads, like oozes or Doulahans. And if they make their saving throw, they are immune for 24 hours. There's a lot of ways this can go wrong, but boy, when this goes right. Though something I would like to point out, all they have to do is succeed. If they normal fail their Fortitude save, the creature dies. And yes, this has incapacitation. But let me paint you a picture. A level 14 sniper uses headshot on a level 20 Baylor and nat 20s their attack roll, just scraping by with a critical hit. Well, of course, it's got incapacitation, so the Baylor gets to make their fortitude save, and they're going to treat their save result as 1 higher. But that Baylor rolls a nat 1. Sure, this would be a crit failure, but because of incapacitation, it gets treated as a normal failure. Normal failure is still instant death. Normally, these effects only kill on a crit fail and make it so because of incapacitation, they don't work on a higher level creature. This is not the case with headshot. It's incredibly unlikely, don't get me wrong, that is a 1 in a million chance. But it can happen! Also, you need to have shot them before in the last minute. Even less likely. But it can still happen! The door is open. Somebody is going to headshot the BBEG while he still has 700 hit points left and they're not supposed to be fighting him yet. But they're gonna nat 20. He's gonna nat 1. It's only gonna be a normal failure. But it's gonna be a headshot. I can't imagine how many people are going to make this build just to try and make this work. Just to say that they got the headshot on like the Grim Reaper and one-shot this thing. Like, what's important about this is going to be really effective against bosses that might be 2 levels above you. You know, if you're level 18 and you're fighting that level 20 Baylor, this becomes a lot more likely. Still very hard to pull off, but not impossible. Showstopper, an upgrade to Pistol Twirl. When you use Pistol Twirl to do a ranged feint, you can feint against every creature within your weapon's first range increment. 2-weapon Fusillade is Flurry of Guns. For 1 action, you attack twice with 2 loaded firearms. This does still use multiple attack penalty, which is rough, but it's not terrible. Fatal Bullet is such a cool feat, but I think it should have been lower level with an upgraded version at level 16 or 18. If you get a critical hit with a firearm that has the fatal trait, you add an additional fatal damage die. This is great. This is double or nothing on what the Gunslinger does. Your normal attacks are no stronger, but when you crit, boy do you crit. So if you have a fatal D12, all of your damage die get upgraded to D12s, and then you add 1 D12. If you have Fatal Bullet, you add another D12. My problem is that this is level 16. At level 16, getting to add 1 D12 to your damage is fine. You can think of that as adding an average of 6 extra damage. It's not that special. If this were like level 6 or level 8, I think it'd be really exciting. The opportunity to add 1 D12 to your critical hits, super fun. Maybe at level 16 you get to add 2 or 3 extra D12s. That'd be fantastic. But 1 D12 bonus damage at level 16 just isn't that exciting. Hair Trigger is really good if you are not a dual-wielding gunslinger. When you use your initial free action in combat to draw your weapon for free, you can also make a strike for free. This is amazing, but it is balanced so that dual wielders can't make 2 strikes for free. In fact, it kind of has them make a choice. With Hair Trigger, if you are a dual wielding, say a Pistolero, then you can either draw both of your weapons or draw one and shoot it. You cannot draw both and shoot both. You cannot draw both and shoot one. It is a choice you have to make, so this is clearly designed with the sniper or the drifter in mind. This feat exists? So if you thought the Monk's Return Fire feat, or whatever it's called, was ridiculous, you got no idea! Let's take a look at Instant Return. As a reaction, if an enemy misses you with a ranged attack and your firearm or crossbow is not loaded, you can grab the thing that missed you. Doesn't matter what kind of ammunition it is, load it into your weapon and shoot it back. If you have a crossbow and someone shoots you with a pistol and they miss, you can grab the pistol bullet, put it in your crossbow, and shoot it. At least the Monk is like quasi-magically throwing it super hard. How is your shotgun shooting a crossbow bolt? Before you yell at me in the comments, I misread it. I missed appropriate to your weapon. Don't make fun of me. I can't read. I still like that idea, though. That you just catch a bolt, load it into your pistol, and shoot it back. I kind of like that. God, I can't read. Why is this my job? Ricochet Master is an okay upgrade to Ricochet Shot. Rather than only being able to bounce off one solid surface, now you can bounce off two. If somebody has 3 levels of cover to their left, right, and front, you can bounce it off the left wall, ricochet it, bounce it off the wall behind them, and literally shoot them from in front of them, but the bullet hits behind them, completely ignoring cover. Also, it now makes them automatically flat-footed against your first ricochet shot. Pretty cool. Final Shot is an interesting risk versus reward, which, as I've already talked about, is something I love about the Gunslinger. For 3 actions, and you are holding an unloaded firearm, you load 3 times the black powder into it. You are going all or nothing with this shot. For 3 actions, you reload the weapon, make a strike within the first range increment, and if you normal succeed, it's automatically a crit, which, remember, is amazing for gunslingers because of the fatal trait. But if you miss whatsoever, it is a critical failure and will misfire. Whether you hit or miss, you are flat-footed until the end of your next turn and stunned 1. So you only get 2 actions on the following turn, which means you can't final shot every single round. Alternatively, you could go for a little bit more consistency and a little bit less risk. Piercing critical increases your automatic crit success range from 20 to 19 and 20. This doubles your chance to get an automatic critical. Now, you are already legendary proficiency, so I don't know how important this is. If you're fighting things with ridiculous AC, sure, a 10% critical strike chance is huge. And yeah, if you're level 18 or 20 and you're going against things at level 22 or higher, this is going to help a lot. But if you're in like a horde encounter and you're fighting a bunch of things that are your level or lower, this is going to be less important because you'll probably crit on a 16 or higher already. So it's tough to say, but if you like consistency and you really want a chance to crit those big tanky bosses, this is going to be fantastic for you. Unerring Shot is fascinating. It's not that powerful, but it makes sense that it's a level 18 feat. You make 1 strike within your firearm's maximum range. Not range increment, maximum range. You do not take a penalty on this shot from range increments, and you ignore 1 degree of cover. If the target has lesser cover, they have none. Standard is lesser, and greater is standard. Something to keep in mind, look at Unerring Shot. This is not an action. This is permanent. If you are a sniper with an arquebus, you can just make every single shot from the maximum distance and ignore cover. Your sniper no longer needs to be any closer than 900 feet from the battle. Just forever, at no penalty. Enjoy. Reach for the Stars is hilarious, but should not be a level 18 feat. You need to already have Black Powder Boost, which lets you fire downward to jump higher, but with Reach for the Stars, you can stack up 5 charges of Black Powder Boost, each firing you 10 feet. And you can choose which direction you aim for every charge. This means you can shoot 50 feet straight up, or you can go 20 feet up, 30 feet sideways, and then probably more with momentum. But that's it. Why is this level 18? Things can fly at like level 14. Even champions can just fly permanently at level 18. Who would spend their level 18 feet being able to jump 50 feet up? It's cool, don't get me wrong. I mean, a monk can fly at level 10 with a focus spell. Sure, you can do this pretty much infinitely because it's just a piece of ammo, which is nothing at level 18, but still, it's a maximum of 5, so you can't go higher than 50 feet. I don't know, this feels like if this were level 12 or 14, I think it'd be really fun, really cool. But at level 18, your feat selection gets really tight because you have to choose. Would you rather have the ability to jump 50 feet in the air, or the ability to shoot from 900 feet away at no penalty, or have an automatic critical strike? This is underpowered, unfortunately. Level 20 feats. First one's exactly what you'd expect. Perfect readiness. You're perfectly quickened and you can use it to step or reload. Interestingly about this one, you can't use it to stride, only to step. So the Gunslinger is not a mobile class, and I think it's kind of cool that even at level 20 they keep that in mind. They're all about very precise positioning, not about moving through the battlefield at ludicrous speeds. So you're obviously mostly going to use this to reload, and now you can get 2 solid shots off every turn and end with a loaded firearm. Pretty good overall. Ricochet Legend is fun, but I kinda wish it was a little bit better. Ricochet Legend, if you have Ricochet Master, allows you to use Ricochet Shot within the first 3 range increments of your firearm, so you can do this from super far away, and the target does not get any cover whatsoever unless they have cover on all sides, which I think includes up, because you can shoot it off the ceiling and bounce it from above, you know? In addition, the target must make a will save, and if they fail, they are stunned too, which is actually incredible, and they can't determine where the shot came from. I think it would have been funny if alongside all of this, you could ricochet a shot off of a creature into a different creature. So like you can ricochet all within the first 3 range increments, but allow you to use creatures as ricochet points, and they take the damage as well. I think that'd be really fun. It's a level 20 feat. I don't think it'd be that overpowered. This is still fun though. Stun 2 is incredible. And finally, the okay one, Slinger's Reflexes. You get an extra reaction every turn that can be only used on a Gunslinger reaction, just so you can't take a point of champion archetype and use that reaction. It's okay. Gunslingers, they're not swashbucklers, they're not fighters, they're not living for attacks of opportunity or anything. I guess you can use instant return a second time, but overall, I don't see a whole lot of synergy with this. I guess they do have the one that allows you to correct your allies' attacks, and being able to do that twice would be pretty good. So there's something there. I think this might actually be the support Gunslingers level 20 feat. Hilariously enough, I think the extra reaction is mostly useful for the feats that allow you to aid your allies, so funny. And that's it! 2 weeks later after the original recording, I came back, I finished this, and the Gunslinger is out. And yes, before you ask, I did have a wonderful vacation. Thank you. I don't even know if this is the first video going up after I get back. It's probably not, but I did have a great vacation. I went to Vegas. It was a bunch of fun. I'm actually recording this right at the start of my vacation. I'm technically going on 2 weeks of vacation, but the first half is bulk recording, and then they'll just be uploading during my second week. So I might not be super active in the comments of this video, fair warning. But I do want to appreciate you so much for watching, for coming back after my vacation. I'm really hoping things go well and YouTube doesn't kill me with its algorithm after missing a week and a half of uploads. I want to give a massive shout out to my patrons for continuing to support me. If you are interested in joining this list of cool people, there is a lot going on in Patreon. I don't know if it's been officially updated yet because this video is going up like 2 weeks ahead of where I am right now in the world, but keep your eye on the Patreon. There's some cool stuff going on, but right now, if you're interested, I released an entire variant rule of dying actions, which you might find super interesting. Thank you all so very much for watching. I got a lot more work to do, but I appreciate all of you so much. So have a wonderful rest of your day, and until next time, no nat ones.